Is this satire? Are you like trying to do something? Because what the fuck is this? Hello ladies, gents, and non-binary mates, and welcome back to Beauty in the Bookcase, where today we are going back into r/men writing women. If you've somehow managed to be on the internet long enough and yet don't know what Men Writing Women is about, it's essentially just a subreddit where people post excerpts, usually from, books, but sometimes other things, about how poorly women are usually written by the opposite sex. So this first post apparently comes originally from Tumblr by Ink Skinned. Oh, oops, I almost drank my paint water, Lamau. Funnily enough, my best friend has told me that's almost happened to her multiple times. She's also put her paintbrush in her coffee, which sounds unfortunate to say the least. The pretentious man writing my life. This is what drove him crazy about her. Her wildness, her insanity. One moment she was peaceful, the artist in her nest, and the next she dived into chaos, dined on it, challenged it. Just when he thought he understood her, she moved to again rewrite her definition. Always unknowable, always glittering like the ocean, hinting at the story yet untold, laughing at a joke not meant for him. Her eyes twinkling with secrets and humor and the otherworldly feminine. She was surrounded by color, loved it so much she tried to pour it inside of her, tried to poison herself with it, trying to paint even her organs. He wanted to kiss her, to entangle that art into his own skin, but the moment was past. She was again order, peace. The chaos ceased. He didn't even get to touch her boobies. Plot twist, but it makes sense, doesn't it? Actually, I don't know why as I read this, I was recently traveling and I went to an art museum with my friend, and I told him that I did not like modern art because it was usually pretentious and it was mostly just people probably trying to see how far they can get by doing the bare minimum but then putting some pretentious explanation on top of it. Which, hey, if that's your hustle and you're making bank, good for you. So we went around the museum anyway, and we just kind of would take turns trying to come up with the most ridiculous, fake deep explanation for random pieces, and then we'd actually read the placard. Anyway, you're probably wondering why I'm telling you this story. It's because reading this reminded me of what that felt like. So, speaking of the pretentious, we're gonna dive into a little bit of philosophy for this next post, with a little bit of Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil. When a woman has scholarly inclinations, there is usually something wrong with her sexuality. Unfruitfulness itself disposes one to a certain masculinity of taste. For man is, if I may be allowed to say so, the unfruitful mammal. Comparing man and women in general, one may say woman would not have the genius for finery if she did not have the instinct for the secondary role. Does this mean that, ace girls are, the ultimate person? Because, they're the smartest? Because they don't waste time on things like sleeping with people? Or is it both ace people and then, lesbians? Because it says there must be something with her sexuality, not sexually. Apparently, lesbians and ace people are just predisposed to be more intelligent than everyone else, according to Nietzsche. You can put that on your Twitter bio. I looked ahead. I shouldn't have looked ahead, but I guess I'm doing you a favor by looking ahead just to tell you that sometimes I get it, as a writer. Sometimes you struggle because you don't want to do the same descriptions that everyone's used to, right? Like onyx hair, sapphire eyes, ruby lips. I get it, I understand. But sometimes it's better to go for the cliche than it is to try and get creative and then do what this next guy decided was appropriate. The shapes and demeanors now at the height of fashion are not Agnes's, but she remains an ideal nonetheless. Her ubiquity cannot be erased overnight. She graces 1,000 paintings, 10,000 old postcards, 100,000 tins of soap. She's a paragon of porcelain femininity. 5'2" with eyes of blue, her blonde hair smooth and fine, and her mouth like a tiny pink vulva. Pristine. I mean, like, there are just so many things that are pink. Like a carnation. Carnations are, you know, on the smaller side and pink and pretty and, you know, could be as a paragon of femininity. I can't even think of other things that are small and pink because I am so, like, astounded that this was a choice. And not only was it a choice, like, I get it maybe in the moment, you know, this is like your first draft, right? Like, that goes into your workshop and probably somebody in, like, your writing group goes like, maybe not that, or, you know, your editor, or, like, this is why you surround yourself with people who won't lie to you. Because if I know that if I wrote some bullshit like that, like, my friends would, they'd be like, is this satire? Are you, like, trying to do something? Because what the fuck is this? So I guess what I'm actually saying is that Michael needs better friends.
5 minutes later.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't read the flare that says women authors. I'm just dumb. So I was really confused because I was like, no, I know who this author is. I'm pretty sure she's a woman. I don't understand. He had told Andy between sniffles. I just don't understand. Andy couldn't remember the man who was her real father. And even thinking the words real father felt like a betrayal to Gordon. Sperm donor felt too overtly feminist. Not that Andy wasn't a feminist, but she didn't want to be the kind of feminist that men hated. Because obviously, when women want to express an opinion about, you know, traditional gender roles, or they just want to find the right words to call their discerning father, they take a moment away from the grief and the pain that, you know, probably comes when your parents just, like, abandon you and have no role in your life, and you go, what about other men's feelings? Like, men not involved in this conversation. Because, like, I get it, you know, at first it's like calling, you know, if she's talking to Gordon, who maybe is, like, her, like, Andy's adoptive father, I don't know this book, then, you know, I can understand her considering his feelings, right? Going like, well, I don't want to say real father because, you know, this is the man who raised me and I don't want him to feel that I don't consider him like my parent. Where, like, I feel like if I was having a conversation with somebody, I wouldn't be thinking, like, I might be thinking obviously of how I want this person to perceive me. I might be thinking about their feelings, being considerate of them. I don't think I'd be thinking about being the wrong kind of feminist, but maybe that's just me. A trailer door opened and a young woman stepped out, leading a child who beat upon her legs with a wooden spoon. The woman was topless, and her breasts hung like 2 knee socks, each stuffed with a single orange. I knew when I signed up that I would encounter exposed breasts, but this being my first pair, I reacted with alarm. She wore her hair in a neglected shag and scolded the child for a moment or two before gathering him up in her arms and burying her sharp-featured face in his stomach. Topless. She was topless, walking the streets of what amounted to her neighborhood. The boy howled with pleasure and then rapped her over the head with a spoon. When he says his first time, I need clarification on, like, is this from the perspective of the author, like, as a child? Which, like, still a curious choice. But, you know, I'd be more forgiving because I think, you know, if this is from the perspective of, like, a child, then I'd be like, oh, well, you know, okay, you don't really have experience, you know, necessarily with seeing much of the female anatomy. So maybe, you know, as a kid you would kind of go like, haha, it looks like when I do this or that. If this is the author, like, just as an adult encountering a woman, and don't get me wrong, I think it's fine to write about, and I think it's fine to write about, you know, how it made you feel, or like that you were shocked. Like, I can understand being like, all I could notice was this because it was so different than what I'm accustomed to. Like, I know that if I went to a different place and I just saw, you know, a person walking without any pants on or without a bra, like, or a shirt on, I would probably be like, that's different. But I don't think that I would describe things that way. Don't wait too long, girl, the old woman had warned just a few days before. She had lost her first husband, Jorand, at an early age, and had been glad to have found somebody else, another capable, kind-hearted farmer for Hawk Farm, maybe? Flowers are beautiful when they're in bloom, but they wither quickly. She strokes her large breasts and weighs them in her hands. In the old days they were firm and taut, and today? I'm just trying to think of a context in which you would be having a conversation with what seems to be... I don't really know who you're talking to. Because you talk about, like, the first husband, and then you're talking about, like, the capable hands of the person who's going to be taking care of the farm. And then you're talking about flowers. And then you're like, but my bazingas are not what they used to be. So, you know what I mean? Which is, again, a choice. Here's the thing. Like, dialogue is hard, I know. Like, I used to struggle a lot with it, and I'd go like, I don't know how to write good dialogue, because I sit down and I'm like painfully aware that everything that I've written doesn't sound how a real person would talk. But the thing is, like, I'm aware enough to know that that's not how a real person would talk. So, like, that stuff stays in the first draft, and the only people subjected to that are, you know, my poor beta readers who have to look at that and go like, sis, have you ever had a conversation with another human being? It's the disjointed nature of it. Like, not, I mean, whatever, it would still be like a weird thing to have a conversation about, probably. But it's the fact that we're talking about so many things, and none of them relate to the, like, what do the flowers have to do with the farm? What does a dead husband have to do with the flowers? What does anything have to do with her? But I want to understand, and I don't. On this day, I went past the boxes marked raspberry with a Z, and into the corner where she kept the beans. It was cool and dark. The walls were plain dark earth, and in wet weather they exuded moisture in trickling, crooked streams. The smell was a secret, dark effluvium composed of living things and earth and stored vegetables, a smell remarkably like that of a woman's private parts. Overall, if we just ignore the mistake I just read out loud, it's not, like, poorly written in general, right? Like, talking about the place in a normal way that is detailed enough for your reader to envision it, right? You know, the dark earth, and like, the thing is, you already had all these descriptions. Content warning for James Patterson, I just don't like him. So I pushed back my sheets and down comforter, sat on the edge of my bed, and caught the naked girl staring at me from the full-length mirror in the corner of my room. Even from the distance, I spotted the bags under my eyes, the tangled mess of my brown hair. At least my boobs looked good. I gave my nips a tweak. I could always count on the girls. I guess my question for you is, do you wake up in the morning and give your nips a little tweak to tell them that they're doing a good job? I mean, doesn't every girl do that? At the moment, I am lachesis. You can see I am of middle age without much sex appeal. She was quite correct. Her face had the lines of solid maturity, and her hair was nondescript under a tight bun. She was comfortably overweight, but moved efficiently. I determined the length of the threads. Now lift his body. I don't want to tear the cloak. I don't understand what's happening here. Like, it feels like they're doing something with the body, which, again, is just a question of context. Like, I've never had, like, a casual conversation with somebody and just been like, yeah, I mean, I know that I'm, you know, like, just imagine you're, like, going to meet up with your friend for a coffee, and you're sitting down, and you're like, yeah, it was, like, a really tough day, like, at work, and your friend's like, yeah, like, work's been so crazy for me lately. Anyway, I'm not as sexy as I used to be because I'm older. Also, have you looked at my boobs? Because I haven't stopped thinking about them since I entered the room. Where is the correlation, guys? I stood there wondering what it was that made her so beautiful. She was looking at us like we were shit. Her spine. Maybe it was her spine. Maybe it wasn't her face. Her spine was, I don't know the word. Her spine was like, the feed suggested supple. Now, supple seems to be a word that male authors use quite often to describe the boobas. I've never looked at somebody's spine in like, well, in any way. I don't really notice people's spines. I don't go around just looking at spines, but I definitely don't think that I would ever describe one as supple. I don't know, this is giving me like killer vibes. Like I just killed her because her spine was just too good. Of more interest to me now than Dale's imperfect memories of past lovemaking were the images and recollections of his 2 daughters. Perhaps it is only with one's mother and girl children that a male human being can really hold any hope of knowing and understanding women. Once more, do you understand how, like, thinking, like, don't get me wrong, like, I have ADHD, so, you know, sometimes, like, I've had to backtrack my thoughts and be like, how did I get here? Here, if somebody was talking to me about their love escapades, I sure as hell would like to think that my brain wouldn't go like, but true intimacy can only be had with one's mother and their female children. Because, like, I don't want to think, I don't understand how in your mind as a person, you go like, say, my friend's talking about sexy times. What about his family, though? Louisa got out of bed and yanked her nightdress over her head. She was tall and long-waisted, with dark, tough hair and the high breast of a sportswoman. Choice. When she forgot herself, she was beautiful, but when she remembered herself again, she stooped her shoulders and looked glum. I understand what you're going for, you know. Well, not the high breast of a sportswoman bit, but like I understand that you're saying that maybe like when she was caught up in the moment, she's laughing with friends or whatever, and she wasn't like awkward about her own beauty. She like she wasn't like overthinking how she looked. That added to her beauty. But the way this comes across, it's like when this woman has any thought about herself, she's not pretty anymore. Yes, the receptionist said, glancing up through an ornate, stylish monocle. As she met Mary's coldness, her nipples diverged slightly, as if scared into submission, frightened away. What I don't understand with things like that is that like nipples aren't just part of like the female anatomy, you know. So like I get it, like men don't have breasts in the way women do, so like they don't understand. But like y'all have nipples and they don't fucking click like a pen, so I don't understand what's not like what's going on, you know. Alright, I'm gonna leave you guys with just one last one because I gotta go, and also this phone is like its battery's dying. So she was tall, rangy, handsome woman. Her long blonde hair drawn tightly around the poised head, with something in her manner, an impersonal energy, an aloofness, perhaps only the unfeminine crispness of speech and dress made her less attractive than she could have been, because as we all know, tomboys ain't cute. Nobody likes them. Why would you dress that way and talk that way when you know it's not sexy for a man? Ugh, typical women. As usual, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Let me know in the comments below what you'd like to see me do next. Make sure to subscribe for more videos like these. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you know when I upload next, and I will see you guys next time.